I'm Dalton Martinez, 45 years old. Been an electrician for 2 decades. After my divorce, I swore I'd never live stacked in an apartment again. Listening to babies cry through drywall while AC units screamed like dental drills. I wanted land, space, peace, a place where I could park my work truck without somebody calling it an eyesore. When I found this 1940s farmhouse on Meadowlark Road, 2.3 acres for $185,000, I thought I'd won. County maps said I was 50 feet outside Birchwood Commons jurisdiction. I called twice to verify. No HOA, no nonsense. Just freedom. Or so I thought. The first thing I smelled wasn't coffee that morning. It was desperation, mixed with cheap perfume and power. At 6 a.m., the president of Birchwood Commons HOA stood in my driveway, blocking my truck, screaming that she'd seize my property by force. But what Brenda Hale didn't know, what made me grin through the chaos, was the smoking gun I'd found the night before. For 18 months, she'd terrorized families around here. Fake citations, bogus surveys, and intimidation dressed up as community improvement. And now, she'd picked the wrong electrician to mess with. Days later, I started noticing her car creeping by my driveway. Every morning, photographing everything, taking notes like she was building a legal case against me for existing. Then came the yellow notices. Thick paper, fancy seal, government authority. Each one screamed violation. Apparently, fixing a broken shutter was a $150 a day crime. Parking my work truck on my own driveway, commercial vehicle violation, not mowing in 4 days, landscaping noncompliance. The paperwork looked official. Watermark, signatures, the whole 9 yards. But my electrician's brain buzzed. Something didn't line up. So I called the actual code enforcement office. They'd never heard of me. Or of those citations. The seal? Clip art. The department? Completely made up. Brenda had created a fictional government on letterhead. After she left, I called Mrs. Mila's daughter, Margaret, up in Portland. When I told her I'd bought her mom's old house, she went silent. "Oh, God," she said. "Did that Hale woman show up yet?" Turns out Brenda had tormented her mother's final years. Fake violations, harassment, inspections that were really intimidation visits. Margaret had kept the documents. Said Brenda had this obsession with expanding the HOA, like she needed more houses to cover some financial hole. That's when I realized this wasn't about community harmony. It was about control and desperation. Moving day was a furnace. September heat so thick it could fry nerves. That's when a white Lexus glided into my driveway like royalty arriving uninvited. Out stepped suburban perfection. Blonde bob sharper than a scalpel, heels that had never touched grass, and a wicker basket full of welcome and control. "Brenda Hale," she said, handing me fancy soaps and a folder thicker than a phone book. Bylaws, community standards, and a note reminding me that previous occupants informally agreed to comply. I laughed. "I'm not part of your HOA, Brenda. Property line's 50 feet that way." Her smile twitched. "Community standards benefit everyone? Mr. Martinez." That smile didn't just slip, it cracked. Then she said something that froze the air. "Ask the Milas about our persistence." That word, persistence, sounded like a threat dipped in honey. That afternoon, she returned, this time with backup. A woman in a navy suit introduced herself as Patricia Vance, compliance coordinator. Patricia whipped out a tape measure and began examining my hedge. The height variance exceeds community standards by approximately 3 inches. 3 inches. They measured my mailbox. Took photos like it was a crime scene. I almost laughed, until Brenda's tone changed. "It would be unfortunate," she said, "if your business reputation suffered due to unprofessional conduct allegations." But that was it. She wasn't just threatening my property anymore. She was coming for my livelihood. So I fought back the only way I knew how, with documentation. Every fake citation, every drive-by, every word. Photographed, time-stamped, filed. My kitchen became a war room. I started talking to neighbors. Tom down the road told me Brenda had pulled the same tricks on him. Fake surveys, property disputes, even tax threats. "She's been worse since they built that community center," he said, like she's desperate to prove she's still in charge. Then came the big one. A professional survey demanding I move my shed because county maps were outdated. Enter her brother-in-law, Rick, carrying equipment that looked like it came from a high school science fair. 20 minutes of waving gadgets around, and suddenly my property line had moved 15 feet toward the road. Apparently, I was now encroaching on her land. $800 for the survey, Rick said. Cash or check. I asked for his state license number. His face drained of color faster than a blown fuse. He packed up and fled. That's when I brought in a professional, Jennifer Walsh. Credentials longer than my arm. Equipment that looked NASA grade. 2 full days of data collection, GPS calibration, county record checks. When the report came back, it was poetry. My boundaries were exactly where they'd always been. Rick's survey? Pure fiction. And here's the kicker. Brenda's fancy HOA sign was illegally built on county easement. When Jennifer told her that, Brenda's face went from beige to volcanic red in 5 seconds flat. She stormed off muttering about attorneys. That night, Tom showed up again. "Emergency HOA meeting tomorrow," he said. "You're officially an external threat to community stability." I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my beer, but behind the humor, something darker was brewing. Brenda wasn't done. 3 days later, I woke up to find 3 utility trucks parked on my lawn. Workers digging around my water lines like they were searching for buried treasure. When I asked the supervisor what was going on, he said someone had reported unauthorized irrigation modifications. Translation: Brenda was weaponizing the utility companies. After 3 hours of digging, the crew found nothing wrong. No violations. No interference. Just a woman so desperate for control, she'd drag anyone into her war. That's when I decided to finish it. I compiled every document, every recording, every fake citation, filed formal complaints with the county, the state licensing board, and the sheriff's office. Turns out, impersonating government authority, even in HOA cosplay, is a criminal offense. When investigators showed up, Brenda's Willowbrook Code Enforcement Division suddenly vanished from existence. 2 weeks later, Birchwood Commons quietly held a leadership vote. Brenda Hale resigned for personal reasons. Peace came slowly. The drive-bys stopped. The morning air smelled like honeysuckle again instead of anxiety. Neighbors started waving again, thanking me for standing up when they couldn't. 67 families. Finally free from one person's obsession with control, I still keep the yellow notices in a binder. A reminder that sometimes the people enforcing community, harmony, are the ones tearing it apart. Freedom doesn't come from rules or fences. It comes from having the courage to say no and the receipts to back it up. So if you're ever house hunting and someone in a Lexus shows up with a welcome basket and a binder full of bylaws, smile, because you might be meeting the next Brenda Hale. And if you do, document everything